Welcome back to the Overplayed podcast, the home of sports and sports gaming in your ear. My name is GoodGameBro, and I'm here to let you know now that whether it's myself or Mills, we may or may not fight you if you haven't left a 5-star review yet. What is wrong with you? Okay, you may be below 5 feet tall. You may have some issues. We're not going to point them out, but we will point them out if you don't leave us a 5-star review. So on your favorite podcast app, make sure you do that. Again, my name is GoodGameBro, and man over there with the long mane and a lot of action figures and a Thor hammer that he can't lift up. Well, that's Mills. Mills, how are you?
Are you trying to say that I'm not worthy? Is this what you're trying to explain to me? Is that I'm not worthy to lift and Thor hammer? Come on, let's speak its name. Mjolnir. Say it with me. Mjolnir.
I'm going to be honest. Me pronouncing that would be horrible. But I will say I remember watching when you had it on your stream and you tried to show me how it worked. You couldn't get it to work.
Can't get it to work. Yeah, it's for those who don't know, it's a Legends one, which means it has a lot of like battery operated things that it does. And if you yell worthy at it, it'll glow. And unfortunately, if you're not quite as worthy, it doesn't glow as fast, apparently. So, I never said I was fully worthy. I just, I lift it once in a while. Okay. So like I'm like, one of those comic book characters. Matter of fact, Thor gets to a point where he can't lift Mjolnir in the comics because he's not worthy anymore. Matter of fact, they call him not worthy Thor. So, yeah, I'm as good as Thor. That's what we're saying here. Before anyone says it, I know you're thinking it. Not the plump one that's from the movies, okay? Not the one where Chris Hemsworth decided to take a couple extra beers. No one's calling me plump Thor, okay? That's not what's happening.
I will never refer to you in that manner, at least right now.
I appreciate that.
What have you been playing this week?
For me, it's been all about. I got back in MLB The Show. I've been playing a ton of, get this, Marvel's Avengers. I got back into the Avengers game March 18th. There's an announcement. Yeah, like it's still fun for me. Okay, like it's still fun. It's still a division-like game where you go in, you do missions over and over to level people up. They're coming out with a next-gen version on March 18th, and then that's also when Hawkeye, Clint Barton, is coming out. It does look like they're going to be putting more effort in as they go. That being said, I got hooked back into it. Wanted to level up. Kate Bishop was the character that I've been leveling up lately. And you know me, I got to find something to grind. I'm actually getting ready. My team is starting back up with season 5 on Friday. So for NBA 2K21, for anyone who doesn't know, that's their card collecting mode. I'm getting ready to get back into that. So I'm going to get my team together for that and just playing some other stuff while I'm waiting. What about you, good sir?
I mean, I respect that. I mean, I watched you last night. I trolled you a little bit.
Yeah, you watched me open packs last night to pain. There's nothing better.
Honestly, I enjoy you suffering. So
there's nothing better in this world than opening, $100 worth of packs and getting wiggled. So if you don't know, whenever it's a card above like a 91 overall, the card wiggles before you turn it over. And then every one of them was like a 91 overall and not like a 97, which I needed. So literally just pack after pack after pack wiggling at me and just watching chat and GoodGameBro laugh at me in the chat. So appreciate you being there for that one, Dougie. Appreciate that.
I'm always there for a good time when it involves you suffering. Just know I will always be there.
Can we get that edited out, please? Can we clip that? Anyway, so we figured what I've been playing. What have you been playing? What's going on over at facebook.gg/GoodGameBro? For those of you wondering where you can find Mr. Bro every evening.
Mr. Bro is probably the worst thing you've ever said to me. Last night I played Fortnite, and I remember why I don't play Fortnite like anymore. Dude, every match was like a little kid cussing me out or yelling at me, or like I had one little kid telling me I was dog water. I told him I'd fight his dad on the front lawn. Like I had to let him know, I keep that thing on me. And by that thing, I mean these massive biceps. But other than that, I'm playing this really new game that no one else is playing called Warzone.
Oh, really? Warzone?
I've just been grinding Warzone a ton.
Never heard of that game. What is that?
It's the ultimate battle royale experience, Mills. No, dude, Warzone with all the hackers and stuff, man, like it's still fun to me. And games that you don't have hackers in, it's the best the game has been in terms of like variety of gunplay and not just having a dominant gun. Like the meta, minus the hackers, is really like you can use the Groza or the Bullfrog or the Kar 98K there's so many different weapons you can use right now, and it's such a fun time because you're not running into the same weapon over and over and over and over. So, when I'm not having a hacker game, which is maybe 1 out of every 5 games, it's really, really fun and a blast. And that's taking like literally most of my time right now.
I think that's a perfect time to transfer our focus out of the unfortunate place of video games and bring us back into a more lighter topic. This week in sports, well, okay, not lighter. Apologies. Rest in power, Vincent Jackson. Vincent Jackson passed this week. Wide receiver, fantastic wide receiver for the Buccaneers and the Chargers. There's a lot going on around the details. I'm going to let you handle the details because there are a lot of different football players coming out. Some we haven't heard from in a while. Talk to me about the passing of Vincent Jackson and some of the details that you have around it.
Yeah, it's obviously the passing of any, person is unfortunate. I think, sports, we always connect with those people, more, right? Because we have some moment in our lives that always feels tangible with them, right? Like we can all remember watching him in the NFL and being this huge giant receiver who would just catch these fades in the end zone and super physical and, using him in Madden and things of those nature. And I know that's where my brain sort of initially goes. But, when the news broke, it was sort of a weird scenario kind of, right? There was a story that broke out that said that he had been sort of reported as a missing person, that family and friends sort of reported that like a while back, and then police ended up finding him. He's like, no, I'm fine. Everything's okay. It was like a misunderstanding. And, that seemed to be how the situation went. And then obviously with his death, they found him at 38 years old in his hotel, I think in a Florida hotel room. And it comes, a week or 2 after the Bucs, won the Super Bowl, right? And so you have to imagine for him spending a good portion of his career there. That's a thing where you love to see your organization sort of succeed, and then you never know. For me, details are still murky. They haven't really come out and said, was it, natural? Was it, something that, stemmed maybe from, current status of mental health, CTE? We don't know. And I don't want to, speculate on that because I would feel that would be in poor taste. It sucks, and one thing that came out today was sort of, of this or sort of from this is Ryan Leaf was sort of talking about, the NFL and taking care of its players. And again, we do not know by any means what happened to Vincent Jackson, but I think Ryan Leaf, if you don't know who Ryan Leaf is, if you're too young to know who Ryan Leaf is, Ryan Leaf came out, I think roughly the same time as Peyton Manning. And it was sort of the whole conversation was like, oh man, should Leaf go number 1? Should it be Manning? And there was a whole conversation about like which quarterback is ultimately going to be better. And obviously Peyton Manning had a much, hallowed career, where Ryan Leaf was, I think Ryan Leaf had, I think it was a drug addiction, if I remember correctly. Is that right?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure it was. And again, definition of a bust. If you want to know where the term bust came from, Ryan Leaf is one of the definitions of a bust in terms of his NFL career.
Yeah. And so basically, from what I understood, Ryan Leaf sort of had seen the story of Vincent Jackson. The story that I read about that is that I think Vincent Jackson had been staying at the hotel reportedly since January 11th, I think, that they ultimately found it. But Ryan Leaf, I'll read literally verbatim what he said here, and I'll believe it a little bit. But he says, the NFL just doesn't care. They don't care. They'll write condolence letters and like that. But if they're invested, they'd actually put some money behind the Legends community and into the mental health, substance abuse side of it. If there's anyone that knows about sort of substance abuse and struggling and, the dark side of that, is definitely Ryan Leaf. Like, he's been through that. But I think I struggle a little bit because I don't want it to. Part of this is like it's opportunistic on Ryan Leaf's part because it's, Vincent Jackson died. We don't know essentially what transpired or didn't transpire. And he's talking about a very important topic, but it's also like I don't know. For me, it just feels it is a little odd to have the opportunistic sort of feel to it. But it is an important message about the NFL, of maybe all the leagues, and not every league does a great job with it. When a player retires, or they've been in the league for a couple of years, or whether they were a legend, they're not really taken care of. Like, these are leagues that drive massive amounts of money, and the massive amounts of money are turned into, current player contracts and rolled back into the owners and investors. But people who maybe paved the way, or those guys that maybe played 3, 4, 5 years and then were out of the league, if they have issues that stem from their career, good luck. Like, you're in a bad position ultimately.
Well, we always hear about the legends, about the guys who are in the Hall of Fame or like that had a lot of good things come from their career. The average career of an NFL player is less than 3 years. And that doesn't stop them from getting things like CTE or concussion syndromes. We hear more about suicides from NFL players now that have been retired for a few years than almost about wrestling. Like, wrestling is right up there with it. It's the same idea. And there's a lot of similarities between wrestling and the NFL when it comes to how these athletes treat their bodies. They are gladiators. They're gladiators that step on the field every Sunday. Sometimes, for college, they go through hitting drills up until recently, pretty much 3-4 days a week. They've been doing it. A lot of these guys have been doing it since Pop Warner. And back again, now Pop Warner's a little safer, depending on how well it's monitored. But you got to think about, so Pop Warner, you're talking about guys that have gone 20 years of consistent, heavy contact. And you look at guys like LeRon McClain 2 years ago. LeRon McClain, former fullback in the NFL, played for the Ravens. This is one of the reasons that I know this off the top of my head. He came out on Twitter and said, I need to get my head checked. Like, he added the NFL. Like, he was like on social media for everyone to see, I need help. My brain is tired. And all LeRon McClain did for years was lower his head and hit people as hard as he possibly could. Dude, we've got guys like Junior Seau. Okay, he shot himself in the chest. And I'm sorry for
God.
Dude, Dave Dewars, like, there's the list. There is a list of people constant that goes down. And what really makes me mad about Vincent Jackson is the first thing that came out from the sheriff's office was that he had a history of chronic alcoholism. Like, that was the first thing that the sheriff said. They said there's a lot of details around this that are murky, or there's a lot, we don't know all the details yet. They had no problem coming out with, well, he had a history of chronic alcoholism. Let's put that right out there so that way we can find something to blame, instead of the fact that Vincent Jackson played in the NFL for a number of years, had concussion issues, and the fact that they had to do a settlement, the fact that there had to be a settlement between the NFLPA and the NFL just to get post-career help is insane. Ryan Leaf, again, opportunistic. I'm with you with this. Ryan Leaf found a place and decided to speak up. You know why? Because no one else did. You haven't heard anyone else come out about it yet, and maybe they should. Because that's exactly what the NFL is. The NFL is Joaquin Phoenix. Okay? They put their thumb up or their thumb down, depending on how good you were in the league. They don't care. They don't care. Make me my money, get out of my league, and don't come back. I don't care about you. What? You're going to walk around? Half these football players can't walk within 5 years. Like, they literally are walking or wobbling around. I've seen them. Anytime you want to go to an autograph session with anyone in the NFL that didn't play quarterback, maybe wide receiver, they're all limping. It's insane. And so Ryan Leaf's right. It's a great message. The NFL doesn't care.
Look at Booger McFarland's hands. That was a meme, like when we first saw that when he was doing college football before he moved to the NFL analyst. Mm-hmm. But like, remember, the man's hand was pointing in 7 different directions. Like, I think people underestimate how, obviously, football is a physical sport, and we can all sort of attest to that and see that. And there's sort of a tangible way to sort of view that. If you sort of give me, some reasons to stretch the word tangible here. Every major sport is incredibly tough on bodies. The NFL is very tough. The NBA is way more tough than people realize. Baseball, people want to talk about them being, lazy or whatever. Baseball is physically demanding. 162 games. It is very physically demanding. This is why I think I don't have a problem whenever an NFL player or NBA player or whatever player is out there trying to get their money. I have zero problem with that. Even when Le'Veon Bell, who was one of my favorite players, I have his jersey hanging up in my closet. Mm-hmm. When Le'Veon Bell was trying to get his money from Pittsburgh, And people were saying on Twitter, like, oh, how do you feel about that? He's being greedy. No, he's not being greedy. He plays one of the most devalued positions of his era right now. Get your money. I have no problem with that. Deshaun Watson, when he got his big contract, I'm happy for you. Dak Prescott right now with Jerry Jones out there, messing around with his money. I do not blame him. Look at what happened to Dak Prescott. He was on the franchise tender and a catastrophic injury, and now they're trying to use that against him in leverage of like, we're going to play with your guaranteed money. If you sign a $200 million contract in football, you are not guaranteed the $200 million. And just because you get that money does not mean that you're going to necessarily be able to take care of yourself long term, right? Like 200 mil is great, but to Mill's point, if you're walking around and you're halfway crippled or your mental health is completely shot or you're suffering from CTE, is that contract really worth it? So I think people have to understand the value that people are getting from a contract is not just their entertainment value or their value from what they may bring to an organization, but it's also it's a trade-off for them. They are trading years off of their lives a lot of times in these physical sports in exchange for dollars so they can have their family set up for generational wealth. And I can't blame them at all.
Rest in power, Vincent Jackson. We need to stop having to report on these kind of things. We're to the point.
Agreed.
It has to stop. It has to stop being this. Everyone talks about it for 3 days, and then social media overwhelms it with something else. Much like many other topics in the world, we need to start worrying about these people that need us. And I really hope this is the one that turns it. I don't think it's gonna be, let's be honest, but I really do hope it is. Moving on, we are also going to talk about, let's move to the NBA. Anthony Davis is out with what looks to be a calf strain. Going to be reported 2 to 3 weeks for the Lakers. The Lakers are in a really weird spot right now. They're in the second in the Western Conference. They do have some depth. We talked about some of the signings like Marc Gasol that they got in the offseason. It's going to help them get through this. But I'm going to tell you right now, and I said this earlier this week on my stream, 2 to 3 weeks, Anthony Davis isn't back by March 1st. Okay, you can tell me 2 to 3 weeks all you want. As important as Anthony Davis is to that team, they're going to make sure he is 100%. And a calf strain like this that would keep you out 2 to 3 weeks is not an injury they're going to push when he's 75, 80, 85%. How does this affect the Lakers, not only for the regular season, but as they move on for some postseason positioning with the way that, and again, remember the schedule this year, it's a lot more constricted. There's a lot more going on in a shorter period of time.
Yeah, this is a tough one, man. The first thing I thought of when AD got hurt and they ultimately came out, I think Woj came out and said eventually like, oh, calf strain, they'll reevaluate in 2 to 3 weeks. I had the same exact reaction to you of like, no shot he's back in 2 to 3 weeks. And the other thing is I don't remember 100%, but I'm pretty sure. Remember when KD, before he tore his Achilles, the big thing was calf strain. I'm pretty sure they said calf strain. They're like, oh, it's just a calf strain, just a calf strain, just a calf strain. They gave him some time off. He came back for the finals. And then what happened? Gone. That Achilles popped. We all saw it on national television. Everyone freaked out. They have to be thinking the same thing right now of like, man, KD had the same thing. Yes, people can come back from Achilles injuries now, but again, being a 7-footer, you never know how someone's body's going to react, especially a guy that I don't want to call him injury prone, but he has suffered from injuries the past couple of seasons, so I'll give him that. It is a blessing in disguise, I think, for the Lakers. LeBron James, greatest basketball player on the planet still at this age, is unreal. Anthony Davis is by far the best number 2 player on a team. You can maybe make an argument for what's going on over in not New Jersey, but Brooklyn. That's debatable. The biggest thing for the Lakers, though, is when it comes to the postseason, it's all about depth and having a core unit you can trust, right? Guys are going to be getting their minutes. Guys are going to be finding rhythm. They've got a lot of really good talent there, but they need guys like Montrezl Harrell has to be a big-time player for them come the postseason. Whether Anthony Davis is healthy or not, he's got to be a major asset to them from not only the offensive end on getting rebounds, getting second chance points, but on defense. What we saw last year from Montrezl Harrell is he was getting cooked again by Anthony Davis, an all-world talent, Nikola Jokic, an all-world talent. He needs some reps, and they have to figure out from a unit perspective how they can sort of move around when Anthony Davis is not in the game and get those guys to still play great defense. So it is a blessing in disguise from there. I don't think Anthony Davis is back until couple weeks after the All-Star break, really. At this point, I think we're a month out from the All-Star weekend. I think he comes back a couple weeks after that. They sort of slow play him. They minute watch him. When the postseason starts, they sort of ramp him up back to full minutes. But I think the Lakers are going to sit around like the 4 to 6 seed, which isn't bad for them. They don't have to be the number 1 seed. They match up really well with a lot of teams, but that's where I see it netting out.
Depending on who's around that 5-6 seed for them to match up with, if they're somewhere, I tend to agree with you. I think they're going to be somewhere between 3 and 6. Upcoming, just so we're clear, they've got Brooklyn at home in LA. They got Miami at home, Washington at home, but then they have to go to Utah February 24th. They got to play at home against Portland, at home against a very, very good Golden State team that's only getting better, home against a fantastic Phoenix team, and then at Sacramento against a very sneaky good Sacramento team. That puts them through March 3rd. Man, that if they go 500 through that, I think they're lucky. I think they're lucky to go 500 through that. They're lucky they're getting Washington, which is probably a win. Miami, who looks to be fake this year. If they don't get a trade, sorry, Cornell, you're not getting Beal. Miami doesn't look that great. Brooklyn, they probably win against, unless it's Brooklyn on the West Coast. That's happening Thursday night. So it's going to be rough, man. They're going to see just what Marc Gasol they have. I think Marc Gasol is going to be the main man getting minutes from this. Dude, I'm agree with you. I don't think the 4 to 6 seed is bad, depending on who ends there, because Phoenix is 5 right now. I really don't think LA wants to see Phoenix, especially not with DeAndre Ayton, Chris Paul, and Devin Booker on that squad, and Mikal Bridges, by the way. Mikal Bridges is running the 3 for them, right? I'm not crazy, right? I could be wrong. I just want to make sure.
He's doing a 3 and 4 hybrid role, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to make he's doing whatever he's doing in that role. He's doing it fantastically, is what I wanted to kind of point out. I think Phoenix is probably one trade away from being a top 4 team, moving into that top 4 spot over like Portland, maybe even the Clippers. Right now, Lakers at 22-7. I guess we'll see where they're at. I tend to agree with you. I think it takes about a month for Anthony Davis to get back, and I think LA is going to kind of free fall when he's not there, because LeBron makes a lot of players better, and I do think there are a lot of really good role players on that team, but they're role players for a reason. I think they start to get exposed, getting more and more time on the court. Next up, let's talk about the trade deadline. I just talked about the Suns, probably a team that need a trade. You see any major splashes as we get close? No, not really too close yet, but we're getting closer to the trade deadline. NBA All-Stars coming up soon. They're going to be doing the dunk contest and the three-point contest on the same day as the All-Star game, trying to get through the pandemic, trying to make sure COVID-wise they're getting everything in and out as quickly as possible. You see anything trade deadline that a team really needs, maybe a player outside of, let's talk about it. But you know what? I'll bring it up first. Blake Griffin. Blake Griffin's getting traded. He's played his last game as a Detroit Piston. Where can you see Blake Griffin going and possibly helping out?
Yeah. First thing I'll say is shout out Draymond Green. I love Draymond Green's rant about how players are treated versus NBA teams and franchises are treated from a accountability perspective. So shout out to him for what he said regarding Blake Griffin and Andre Drummond. 100% in line with that.
Go into it. No, go into it,
Blake
please.
Griffin, I don't think is.
I don't want to cut you off the Blake Griffin thing, but I want you to talk about the Draymond Green thing. That's very important, because this All-Star game that I just mentioned, let's not wipe over that. Tell me about Draymond Green.
Yeah, so I mean, Draymond is a dude who's not afraid to say what's on his mind. Like, I always respect that. I feel like if I was an NBA player, I would probably be more akin to like Draymond Green, right? Like, I'm limited offensively, I'm gonna be good defensively. I'm gonna talk more trash to anybody on the court, so I respect him for that.
Did you just compare yourself to Draymond Green?
I don't want to say I'm an all-world defensive player, but friends in the family. So what I loved about what Draymond said ultimately is he talks a lot about how NBA teams can come out and say, Andre Drummond, we're going to sit him. We're trying to trade him actively right now. Blake Griffin, we're going to sit him. He's played his last game here, but we're actively trying to trade him right now. And that is deemed acceptable or okay by NBA communication standards. But let James Harden, plump James Harden back in Houston before he went to Brooklyn, let James Harden come out there and say, I want to trade. He's going to get fined. He's going to get reprimanded. He's going to get dragged through the media. But in an organization like Detroit, who has not really been good since, the days of Rip Hamilton, Chauncey Billups, Tayshaun Prince, Ben Wallace, Rasheed Wallace, all those guys, an organization who has been not great for over a decade now, is okay with saying, we're just going to trade this guy. He's not going to play anymore. We're going to figure that out. How is that deemed acceptable? So he talked a lot about sort of double standards from players and ownership and team perspective. And I love the fact that he called that out, because the NBA has to reevaluate that, in my opinion.
I agree. I think this goes on to multiple other leagues, but you're right. Management's allowed to do what they want. Coaching allowed to do what they want. As soon as they take it to the players take things in their own hands. I mean, you can't do that. Don't. Hey, mind your role. Step back in line. You know how it is. It's unfortunate.
Yep.
And Draymond Green is absolutely right. And let's talk about Draymond Green is teaching James Wiseman. The more and more you see Draymond Green talk about these things, the more and more you feel better about James Wiseman and the next class of stars. I really hope that other NBA teams and other NBA stars take what Draymond Green is doing right now and teach that to the next level, to the next set of rookies, because that's what's really going to change it. The more you change the culture in the league, the more they stand up and, be counted and speak their minds, the more that's going to change. So good on Draymond Green. Let's get into the trade deadline. Blake Griffin, as we've been talking about, has played his last game as a Piston. Andre Drummond, we talked about Andre Drummond a couple weeks ago, has probably played his last game in Cleveland. Rumors are Raptors for Drummond right now. There really isn't a whole lot of rumors going around Blake Griffin. I think Blake Griffin's value is really low right now. Where do you see these guys going? Do you see somebody else going anywhere else? Anything you want to, maybe off the hip, you want to see a team get somebody?
The Drummond and Raptors makes a decent amount of sense, I think. I'm interested to see how they use him and Siakam. Siakam has been driving a lot and spinning a lot into the post. How does Drummond sort of stretch out of that a little bit, move out to the 18-foot mark? I think they could do some really cool stuff, though, and I trust that organization. Blake Griffin, if I remember correctly, has not dunked once this year. Like, think about the fact that we're talking about Blake Griffin, one of the most prolific dunkers in NBA history, has not dunked this year. I don't know what's going on with Blake Griffin. It could be playing in, it's not the worst organization in basketball right now, but the Pistons are closer to NBA Siberia than they are sort of contention right now. Maybe it's playing there, right? He went from LA and he was doing a lot of stuff in Hollywood in his personal time, and you go to Detroit and you're kind of like, this isn't exactly great. I don't see a team paying a lot for Blake Griffin. I could see Blake Griffin somehow ending up on the Celtics for a very small offer. The Celtics are a team that need a whole lot of help. But I'm not also 100% sure the Celtics are going to be buyers of the deadline.
Can you imagine that dumpster fire right now adding Blake Griffin to it? I want to see that just to watch the fires burn brighter. The Boston Celtics right now, who can't get out of their own way on the court, literally tripping over their own feet. Like I watched a game where they couldn't dribble the ball up the court the other night, and they're going to put Blake Griffin.
I think Kemba's going.
Oh, Kemba's 100% gone. Kemba has to go. And again, we talked about that. I think Teague is a good spot for that team. I mean, he's not Kemba, but he can run that offense. But being said, like, I love Jaylen Brown. I'm a big Jaylen Brown fan. Don't get me wrong. Dude, that team does not mesh well. That team does not play well together. It's a bunch of 1v1s. They don't run offense very well. They don't help on defense. I'm putting Blake Griffin into that chemistry is going to do one of two things. It's either going to finally shatter it, or it's going to do something magical and put them all together for once. One way or another, it's going to be entertaining if that happens.
Yeah, I never put things past Danny Ainge. I imagine if Danny Ainge had just not been a dummy and pulled the trigger on the trade for Gordon Hayward to get Miles Turner. And I forgot who else was maybe possibly involved in that, but he could have gotten Miles Turner, who is one of the, I mean, I think he's out at the moment, but having an incredible defensive year, averaging nearly 4 blocks per game. That team needs some defense, some continuity, and a guy in the middle that can help them out. And Miles Turner, I think, would have been great for them. The one interesting trade that I saw sort of pop up is the Hawks are talking about moving John Collins, right? Yeah. They're talking about moving John Collins, but they want an absorbent value for him. I think the Hawks should not move him. I would kind of be upset if they did, because I honestly think what they're doing in Atlanta, 2 to 3 years from now, Atlanta is going to be a problem. You've got Trae Young, you've got Herter, you've got Cam Reddish, who I think is one of the most underrated young players in the NBA right now. He is the perfect 3-and-D guy, great 3-point shooter, incredible perimeter defender, great length. He's like 6'8", 6'9", out there as well. You got Collins, you have Capella. Like, the Hawks have built something fun and something that is, I think, going to be good, really good in 2 years. I just don't want to see them give up on Collins just yet. I know he's a little bit more one-dimensional, but you can make him fit in that system, in my opinion. So I think Drummond and Griffin are the guys that definitely move. I think Kemba definitely moves. Outside of that, it's going to be interesting, but I don't see a ton of buyers at the deadline, really. I think there's going to be a lot of sellers, but I think there's way more supply than there's going to be demand come this deadline.
I don't necessarily disagree with you, and I think this is going to sound crazy. I think the pandemic still has an effect on that. I say you have teams that are still being affected by no attendance or very little attendance. I think one of the reasons Collins' name pops up a lot for Atlanta is because did he turn down like a max deal or something close to it? This past, it wasn't a max deal. It was like a 4-year something. It was a 4-year, close to $100 million contract.
That's a lot.
Yeah, and he turned it down because I think he wants a max deal. I think he wants the 125 over 4. And I don't think they're going to be able to, because a lot of their guys need contract extensions coming up, including Trae Young. And so I agree with you. I would love to see John Collins. He's only like 23. I'd love to see John Collins really get a chance with that team. I don't know they're going to be able to re-sign him, and I think they want to get some value for him. They're currently sitting 11-16, about a game and a half out of the playoffs. I still think they can make a definite run to the bottom side of the East. And let's be fair, you get into the Eastern Conference playoffs, who knows who you can beat? You can beat pretty much any team not named full power Nets, like on any night or in a 7-game series. So I really thought Atlanta was going to be better this year too.
You know where I want to see him though?
Where would you Collins? Where do you see Collins?
I want to see. Yeah, I want to see Collins go to Dallas. I don't know how that can happen, but imagine Collins running the floor in Dallas with Luka.
Man,
I am here for that. Luka's vision with Collins' athleticism and ability to sort of play above the rim. I'm here for that.
Well, and the thing is that's what Luka absolutely needs. Luka doesn't have a ton of talent around him down there right now, with not only injuries, but like he's got guys like James Johnson making a few million, Tim Hardaway Jr., but he doesn't really have. I mean, Kristaps is down there obviously, but like Kristaps, I think is taking a step back, and I think he's hurt, isn't he? Wasn't Kristaps still hurt? At some point, whatever it is,
he's banged up. I think at least, yeah.
Yeah, whatever it is, I mean, he's always banged up. Whatever it is, Luka's essentially running that team by himself, and they're just out of the Western Conference playoffs. Adding another star like that, I'd love to see it. Again, I don't know how they do that, and it would be a rental because Collins, wherever Collins is going. If he doesn't sign with Atlanta, he's not re-signing with any team. He wants a max. He wants a 4-year, $125 million. Honestly, he's probably worth it at 23. So wherever he's going, they better get on the negotiations quick because that dude's a star. So moving on, we're going to talk about Serena. Oh, Serena. A lot of talk about Serena Williams going on. She's going against Naomi Osaka. Who is coming away with the title in that matchup?
I think you're a crazy person if you ever bet against Serena. I don't care who she's playing. I don't care what sport it's in. I'm probably picking Serena in any sport. We're talking about badminton, table tennis, basketball. I'm picking Serena against LeBron. I'm giving her a chance. Serena is probably the most underappreciated athlete, at least of our era, possibly of all time. Like top 3 underappreciated athletes of all time by far. What she's been able to do, especially post baby, is unreal. Serena's at an age where women tennis players are written off completely. You were not supposed to be playing the level that she's playing right now, especially one that had a baby where her kid is 2-ish now, maybe, if I'm remembering correctly. what she does is incredible. She's the, in my opinion, greatest tennis player of all time. I am here for Serena. I am Team Serena. Naomi Osaka, you are a great tennis player. You'll be the future of the sport. But unless Serena retires, I'm picking her every single time.
And the best part about this is this matchup is on one side of the semifinal bracket. You got Machova versus Brady on the other side, who are like in the mid-20s for seeding. This deserves to be a finals matchup, Osaka versus Williams. Like this probably, and let's be fair, this probably is the finals matchup. Because either one of these two women are going to wipe the floor with Brady or Machova. Serena Williams is not only the best tennis player of all time, I think Serena Williams has a claim to being the best. Do I want to say female athlete or do I want to say athlete? Because there's a part of me that wants to think about single athletes and who could be better than Serena. And honestly, outside of like looking at a guy like Muhammad Ali, is there anybody that comes off the top of your head that has done what she has done in tennis? Like in their individual sport?
It's tough. And like, I love Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali is one of my favorite athletes of all time, but I think she's more dominant than Ali. Ali had that stretch, right, where I think the hard part for judging Ali is, right, he went to the war, comes back or whatever, he has the years of the war basically where he's not a boxer, and then he comes back. So we were robbed essentially of his prime, his prime years, right? And then, when you look at some of his later fights in his career, you're kind of like, he didn't have the longevity and he didn't have the dominance in his later years that we would expect, right? And that's why I give like LeBron a higher nod than I give Muhammad Ali, because what LeBron is doing in year 18 is stupid. It should not be done. What Serena is doing, what is she, 30? I gotta look, 34, 35?
What is Serena Williams? I think she's 34.
39.
Apologies. Is she really?
America,
wait, she's what? She's almost 40?
39.
Okay, she's the best. I take it back. There's not even a question. She's the best. She's the best athlete ever. She's literally the best. This is gonna sound crazy. She is the best athlete ever. She has one short Grand Slam singles title. Margaret. What's her last name? Margaret Court. Margaret Court is the only women's tennis player to have more Grand Slam titles than Serena Williams. Serena Williams is sitting at 20.
Yeah, she gets it.
Margaret Court's got 24. And honestly, I think Serena probably gets this one. So. Dude, can you think of any? I'm thinking Muhammad Ali. I'm trying to think of Michael Phelps. I think Michael Phelps is obviously, for what he's done in the Olympics for swimming, I think he's got to be up there somewhere. I tend to lean away from team sports because no matter what you think about an athlete, if he's in a team sport, or he or she is in a team sport, that's still like an individual. There can be individual effort, but you rely on a team still. That's a great question.
You got to get Tiger in there too.
Tiger, yeah, absolutely Tiger. Overplayed pod. If you spell it out for him, it's OVRPLYPOD, right?
You missed a D, but yeah, it's Overplayed with only one vowel and then pod at the end.
Yeah. So at Overplayed pod, if you guys think there is who you think the best athlete of all time is, I'm putting my money on Serena. I'm putting my money on Serena as the best athlete of all time. That's a conversation. We should have like an entire like bracket of best athletes, best individual athletes, and just like see where that all wraps out at some point. We should have like a bracket show. Bracket show sounds awesome. Like a 64 person or team. We'll do that at some point. Speaking of teams and individuals, your boys look like they might be parting ways with Mr. Roethlisberger. Steelers look like the rumors going around that they might be either trading or cutting Big Ben. Big Ben is due $44 million against the cap, I think. Is that true? I think it's a big number if he plays. Hope so. If he plays, yeah. So talk to me about the Steelers getting rid of Ben Roethlisberger.
This is where the rebuild 100% begins for Pittsburgh. I haven't really been through a lot of rebuilds in my time as a Steelers fan in my lifespan, which has been great. I wholeheartedly think this is one of those years. We are going to lose a lot of people, right? I think Big Ben is hopefully gone. I'm hoping we draft or sign a quarterback. I would love to find a way to get Mariota, honestly, in Pittsburgh. But I see us. There's a chance we lose James Conner. There's a chance we could lose Juju. Obviously,
good chance, by the way. Good chance you lose Juju.
Yeah, Pouncey just retired as well, right? One of our strongest offensive linemen and most consistent offensive linemen had his issues, but we're losing him. I want it to be over for the Big Ben era, because if you look at our roster and how it's constructed, I say we as if I'm on the roster, but if you look at Pittsburgh's roster, there is no one on that roster, especially if we lose some of these main players, that are going to help Big Ben out. Big Ben had some of the shortest yardage per attempt that he's ever had in his career this past year. Do I think he can still go out there and sling the old pigskin? Sure. But is it worth having Big Ben there to have a gap year and then ultimately just be bad for 2 straight years or add an extra year of bad? No, I don't want to see another year of Ben. I want to see them cut Ben, try to work some. I think our salary cap hit for him and then cuts in half from like 44 to like 24 or 22, somewhere in that rough area. Let us try to get some of those younger guys back that maybe can help us out a little bit. Draft Najee Harris in the 22nd overall pick. That would be great. But just start rebuilding. It's time. We had a great run. Keep our head coach. Mike Tomlin is one of the best head coaches in the NFL. I will go to bat for him every single week. Just rebuild the roster and keep our staff in place.
When he's not jumping on the field in front of Jacoby Jones trying to stop a kick return, right?
Listen, you get into the game, it just happens.
By the way, $41 million cap hit, $22 million of dead cap if you cut. I'm with you. It's time for the Steelers. The Steelers are in a very weird position. Cincinnati's on the uptick with Joe Burrow coming back next season. They're going to be a better team. Cleveland is a playoff team and will be next year. If you believe in Baker Mayfield, which I don't, but I still think Cleveland's good enough to get to the playoffs. Obviously, the Ravens are one of the top teams in the AFC, not just bias. I truly believe that, and they're only going to get better until they have to pay Lamar. Dude, it's time. Get out while it would be a challenge to get back to the playoffs right now. Come back. Mason Rudolph is not the answer. I think they've answered that question tried that question with Mason Rudolph and gotten the answer a few times. Get out of there while you can with Mason Rudolph. Let him get his head beat in, because that's what's going to happen to anyone that steps behind that Pittsburgh Steelers offensive line next year. And just, if you're going to draft somebody, you're going to bring somebody in, don't make it somebody you care about, because Pouncey being gone is going to hurt that offensive line way more than anyone thinks. I'm with you. I think Roethlisberger, he ends up on another team or just retiring. I honestly think he ends up on another team because he's hard-headed and he probably still wants to play. That being said, I know the Steelers have said they're not worried about the money, but it's a business. You got to worry about the money. So next up, let's talk one last thing before we move on to some gaming news. Tim Tebow. NFL news, right? No. Major League Baseball. He's officially retired from professional baseball. As pitchers and catchers report this week, Tim Tebow has made an announcement. I don't know why it had to be an announcement, but Tim Tebow kneeled and said, "Lord, I'm done." Talk to me about Tim Tebow. Tim Tebow asking the Lord for his release.
You're
from
one
baseball.
of the worst human beings of all time.
Come on, it's Tim Tebow. He literally did nothing for the Mets. All Tim Tebow was a way for them to bring butts into the seats. They can't put butts in the seats. No one cares about the minor leagues anymore, including Major League Baseball. Then Tim Tebow no one's going to bring him back. So Tim Tebow has retired from professional baseball. Yay. Right?
Yeah. If there's any reason that I'm happy to see this, Tim Tebow, I think, means well, and for the most part is like a really good dude, right? Like he'll have a Hallmark biopic or biopic, however you essentially say that. Like they're going to do something for him, I'm sure, at some point. Wait,
Tim Tebow can be put aside. Tim Tebow can be put aside. Literally just announced. Baseball news. Fernando Tatis Jr. just agreed to a $14,340,000 extension. It is the third largest deal.
14 years, what you meant, but yeah.
14-year contract. It begins in 2021. He gets a full no trade clause, a signing bonus of above $10 million, and there's no money deferred. He gets it all. That is the second player for the Padres on a $300 million plus deal next to Manny Machado, his teammate on the left side of the infield. Oh my God. So
these are not the Padres we grew up with.
No, these Padres are ready to spend. They're ready to spend right on next to the Dodgers. Oh my God. So this means two things, obviously. First of all, the Padres are for real. Second of all, Fernando Tatis, you ready for this? He's the cover boy for MLB The Show. He is the face for the next wave of Major League Baseball. He, Juan Soto, all the boys that like the bat flip. Bat flips are in. All right? That's what Tatis stands for. Tatis stands for having fun and making sure everyone knows he's having fun. He is what Major League Baseball needs. He is what Major League Baseball needs. They have the oldest average fan base of the four major sports. They need to get younger, and them having fun on the field are one of the ways to bring in a younger audience. Change my mind.
I'm not going to change your mind because you're 100% correct. Look, as someone who grew up playing baseball, and baseball was a sport that I was like the best at, like I connected with baseball the most for me growing up because I just was like, oh, I'm good at this. This is fun. Baseball has been the most boring, annoying sport to watch for a long time because there has not been personality, right? The NFL has used to do such a great job of having sort of like, touchdown celebrations and player personality. And they're kind of trying to work their way back, but they're also being like really dumb. The NBA has celebrations. You've got personality. Like little kids are mimicking Curry. They're doing the mouthpiece thing. They're doing LeBron's little celebration he has. There's something for every player on every team people align with, right? But then there's baseball. Your best player is Mike Trout. And you can't do anything other than mimic robbing a home run for Mike Trout. And maybe that's not Mike Trout's personality. Like, I get it. But like Bryce Harper, who's not as good as Mike Trout, Bryce Harper is more fun to watch because you're going to get an attitude. You're going to get him yelling about stuff. You're going to get some bravado there. You're going to get a bat flip. You're going to get the hair flip. Whatever you're looking for, he's going to give you something. And baseball needs more of that. And then Tatis, look at the cover athlete, like you mentioned. The cover is literally him doing the bat flip or the bat chuck, whatever you want to call it for that. I love it. Baseball needs more of this. I'm glad the Padres are embracing it. And I hope we see more and more personality sort of emerge now because I think it's important for young players to see that's a young dude who's talented, has tons of personality and bravado, and he's getting paid. Imitation is a sincerest form of flattery, and I hope more and more people pick up on that.
Well, this is a perfect leadway into gaming news. Tatis, who is the cover boy for MLB The Show 21, MLB The Show 21 this week just put out a March to October kind of a sizzle trailer, like a teaser trailer. Not a ton of information. Couple of Easter eggs, though. Possible that March to October is moving to multi-year. One of the frames we saw showed multiple years over their new depth chart aesthetic, which we saw like 6 pictures of the starting pitchers. We saw a full bullpen. We saw every position had multiple players in it. One of the other things we saw is that the CPU logic was getting an overhaul when it comes to trade logic. Kind of awesome stuff that we're seeing with March to October. We knew March to October was the mode that they were going to push a lot harder when they started it 2 years ago. What do you feel about the changes we've seen in this video to March to October? I'm going to have a follow-up to this, and I think you know what it's going to be.
Yeah, for me, the aesthetic looked really good. I love the menu overhaul. I love sort of the cleaner look and feel to it. You can tell they're wanting to make this a flagship mode, right? When it first came out, I was sort of like, oh, okay, this is fun. I'll dabble a little bit here and there. But you can definitely tell like this year, they're putting a lot more sort of oomph into it or importance on that mode. And I respect it because it is a great way to like, as someone who loves hardcore franchise modes, it is still a really good experience to crank through a season and then bring it into a regular franchise mode if you want after you sort of build out your roster. But those little Easter eggs they put in, with the year tabs up top, or even the coolest thing in my opinion was the ability to play as one of your minor league guys. And then if you have a breakout or a great game with them, you have a chance for an instant call up, giving you a reason and level of importance to care about your minor league roster if you are a casual baseball fan and to play those games. So I love the direction of that mode. And, if these hints are what we think they are, I'm super hyped.
So the follow-up is, with the changes we're seeing with March to October, does that give you a better feel or a worse feel for the mode that you and I tend to care about a little bit more, and that's franchise?
Yeah, I feel worse. I don't expect a lot of changes for franchise. I think we're going to get the Create a Stadium is going to be the big thing for franchise. We'll get a menu overhaul. Maybe a small feature here, but I don't expect to be wowed at all. I expect to be like, okay. And then
I think we're gonna need a lot of under the hood stuff for franchise. Honestly, I truly believe, and not that that's not welcome. They've needed to do a lot of quality of life under the hood stuff, a lot like with what we got with Madden this year. And I know this sounds terrible, but a lot of what they're doing with Madden as the year goes on, while they're adding smaller things, they're doing a lot of under the hood fixes. I think the next update for Madden franchise is going to be CPU trade logic. I wouldn't be surprised if we see CPU trade logic, faster menus, like you said, faster interactions, a better UI, find some god awful way not to re-sign people and not have it take an hour and a half to get through your entire roster, especially for re-signing people on February 2nd, all your minor leaguers that you just have to re-sign for $30,000-$40,000 a year. You literally have to go through every single one of them, offer them earlier in the season, then come back on February 2nd and re-offer them, just to get minor leaguers that you may never see. I think March October is fantastic. One of the big things that March October offers that most people don't get with franchises, a lot of hardcore franchise players make it through a season, but a lot of casual players that are playing through it never make it past one season nor want to. If they do a multiple season in March to October where you have some control over multi-year kind of goals, maybe you're the Orioles and your goal is to win in 3 years and not just one. I'd love to see that. I'd love to see something like that. And it gets you through a full season in somewhere between 10 to 15 hours. Depending whether you make the playoffs or not, which I think is really cool. I'm one of those ones that have stated for a long time, 10 to 15 hour experiences should be a standard for a lot of games that want to go 80, 90, 100 hours. So you definitely want to get value, but you want to have something there to have that little story told. And March to October does a fantastic job telling a story. I'm going to guess we're going to see a lot more of the more presentation changes. That seems to be something that gets upgraded every year. Commentary, I think you and I both know when it comes to commentary in sports games, the longer a mode is around, the better the commentary gets, because the more commentary they can record. This will be third year from March to October. Can't wait to see some of those changes. But I am with you. I think franchise, I'm not going to say takes a back seat, but I think this is going to be an under the hood year for franchise as opposed to a major feature year. I mentioned this also on my stream. I don't think they're going to be a major franchise here until they rebuild it. I make the burrito analogy, which I will not do fully here. But there's a burrito analogy to where you have ingredients in a burrito and can't pull it out. You can only make so much into a burrito. Well, franchise right now is a full burrito that you can't disassemble and you can't add to. You got to start a new burrito for franchise until you can get some major updates to it. And that includes, I know, because I know some of you out here asking for it, online franchise, I think, has to wait for that as well. So I don't think we're seeing online franchise back this year either. Custom leagues, I think maybe if it's custom leagues, get multiple seasons and custom leagues with a persistent roster, maybe that's it. But I think that's the best you get.
Yeah, it's a valid point. One thing I do think, if they do bring a new feature to franchise mode, I could see them taking, sort of a route from Road to the Show with those sort of player interaction scenes of seeing players on planes, in the locker room, having players come to the GM or the coach or whatever. I could see some incorporation of those scenes into franchise mode. But past that, I don't really see much. But yeah, I 100% agree with you. March to October is fantastic. I hope they keep building it out. But again, I just hope the franchise mode isn't neglected and we see, incremental changes over the years building up to bigger stuff that really matters for us.
to do that, they're going to need to do a overhaul of their morale. I believe their morale system. The morale system is really weird. Like, to be a star, you have to be in the first or third spot in the lineup. But Mike Trout is slotted into the second spot in the lineup, and that lowers his morale. When baseball now, the second spot in the lineup is where a lot of stars go to get more at bats, but also our RBI opportunities. So I'm with you. I really hope we see something like that. I think they need to do a morale overhaul before they do anything like that. So we'll see. Last but certainly not least, Nintendo had their Direct today. And I mean, when I'm talking Nintendo Direct, when we're talking sports, you don't really link Nintendo with a ton of sports, with the exception of Mario Sports. Mario Sports are one of the most fun, not only casual, because there's a lot of hardcore in Mario Tennis. I'm going to tell you right now, you get some of those hard levels of Mario Tennis, you play online Mario Tennis, some of those people are sweaty. I'm telling. So they announced at the Nintendo Direct that Mario Golf Super Rush was coming out this year. It's going to be released on June 25th. Some of the new things we're going to see is they're going to have a full story mode, which I love. One of the games that I played the most on the Switch was called Golf Story. Had a complete story mode while having like a decent golf experience. They're going to have speed golf, which was hilarious to watch. It's literally 4 players as your, Yoshi, Mario, Wario, Waluigi, whoever you want to be, hitting balls on a golf course and then sprinting after them. You literally have to hit the ball and sprint after it. And the fastest you get it in the hole, that's how you win the hole, it looks like. Super excited for that. Couple of other things, new UI for like shot shaping. So that's, again, where you go away from the casual a little bit. You get more into like, there actually is a good golf, game at the heart of Mario Golf. It's not just Mario Sports. Like, people think they're just putting like these little arcade things out there. There's some really good base to these Mario Sports games. Are you excited for Mario Golf Super Rush? And are you excited for me to kick your butt in speed golf when it comes out in June?
There's, first of all, anything that involves speed, I'm going to literally crush you in because I am beyond athletic. Okay, I'd flex, but I don't want to rip this shirt.
Somebody in the audience, can you please clip this? Remember this? Remember these words that he stated that he was going to be able to beat me in anything speed related. I've seen you run baseball bases, and I got from a little birdie on that video, m.frisk, youtube.com/m.frisk, EMMDOTFRISK, because I want people to see you running those bases and understand what take that was that they got to see. You want to keep talking about your speed?
That was the first take. That was the first take, and I was jogging. That was I literally got second place and I was jogging. Whatever. I'm somewhat excited for Mario Golf just because of my kids, and I think it comes out in June, right? So like my daughter will be 3.5. Tyson will be a little over a year old. Tyson won't know what the heck is going on, but Kendall, she's like starting to play the Switch a little bit with Mario Kart. And so like I can see her sort of like playing it a little bit. I think the speed golf mode will probably intrigue her more because she just wants to like mash buttons and, try to do everything super fast. So that excites me. But again, I think a game like that, like I'll play primarily with my kids. I'll destroy you in it a time or two. And then when you retire from Mario Golf, I'll go back to just destroying my kids in the game.
And just bully your kids. Is that what I heard?
I mean, there are no easy buckets out here, okay?
Well, man, okay, that's a great episode 12 for us. We talked about a lot of great things. GGB as he backpedals. Talk to me. What do we got going on for the rest of the thing? Talk to me. Wrap me up. This is where you talk. This is where you star. Talk to me.
Wow. Again, Mills cut it off earlier because he was having, a fanboy moment for Tatis, but Tim Tebow, again, retired from baseball. All he does is win. If you haven't seen that, go watch that on YouTube with Skip Bayless. It's an incredible song. It'll be your anthem every single morning. Great stuff again this week, Mills. We covered a ton of great topics again. Rest in power to Vincent Jackson. WandaVision, new episode coming out Friday. Your boy is hyped. I'm probably going to be tweeting. I'll make sure I not put spoilers out on Twitter, but I'm going to have a lot of emojis out there. Are you caught up
on WandaVision?
I didn't tell you?
No.
I'm caught up.
What? You didn't even watch an episode last week. Episodes. Brother, why don't we? Okay, fine. Are you kidding? Are you kidding me right now? Did you really, after I went on for 15 minutes about WandaVision last week, you didn't make one mention that you hadn't watched an episode? You literally,
you realized a single episode, and I just watched it all.
I've been fanboying about Marvel, DC Comics. I've been fanboying about everything on Twitter. You follow me on Twitter, I think. I think you haven't muted me yet, and you didn't tell me about WandaVision.
I blocked you.
I just finished the episode.
Because everyone spoils it on Twitter.
I'm done. Finish the episode.
Everyone spoils it. Mills just quit. Episode 13 will be just me, apparently. But I hope you guys had a great time on today's episode. If you haven't yet, make sure you leave us a 5-star review. Mills is trash. I'm way better than him in every single video game on the planet. Thanks again for listening to episode 12. Leave us a 5-star review on Spotify or on Apple Podcasts or wherever. We'll catch you guys in the next one. And for Mills, ciao.